Day to Remember was kind of my gateway drug into 4 Year Strong and the Wonder Years and Blink 182, of course. And
that's so funny because I feel like so many people have used A Day to Remember for the other way. You know, you're into pop punk and then you're like, oh, A Day to Remember was my bridge into like metalcore and into heavier music. So the fact that yours went backwards is interesting.
I entirely worked it in reverse.
You're listening to Our Space with Matt Batisse.
Hello, and thanks for throwing on another episode of Our Space with Matt Batisse. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may notice the setup looks a little bit different. Going through a move right now, so some things are different, but of course, some other things stay the same, like talking to some of your favorite bands and bands that you haven't heard of before, but will soon be your favorite. Today's chat is one of those where we're going to be talking to a band called Old Neon. Old Neon, it has this traditional pop punk sensibility and sound to them with a newer spin as well, which is really, really great. They have a new EP coming out very, very soon as well. In fact, if you're listening to this episode, it comes out on the day of release. It comes out tomorrow. If you're listening to it any other time, it's already out. So you can go and check out their music. I promise you, this is going to be one of those bands where you throw onto your pop punk playlist and you put the windows down in the middle of summer and just enjoy it. Their music is catchy and fun, and so are they. And I'm really excited for you to hear this chat. So let's just dive on into it. Here's Old Neon. We're joined today by Drew and Zach of Old Neon. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, guys.
What's up, Matt? Thank you so much for having us on.
This is a really fun one because I was actually sent your EP that is about to come out fairly soon. And I was like, these guys rip. Like, what they're doing is fantastic, but I have a feeling that there's not that many people that really know of you yet. And I put that big yet out there. So for those that don't know who you are, who is Old Neon?
Well, we are a pop punk alternative, whatever the heck under that umbrella you want to call it, band from
that big, massive umbrella.
We're from Pittsburgh. 5 people that love making music. And yeah, we tried really hard on this EP. So
how did you guys actually all get together? Because I feel like every single band has a weird or interesting story of how they got together, whether we were high school friends or I talked to someone recently that met through a Kijiji ad or a Craigslist ad. And my Canadian just showed there because I don't think you guys know what Kijiji is.
No
like
idea.
The Canadian Craigslist.
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of came in at different points. So like I came in once the band was already founded by our bass player Sean, and I was just scrolling on Instagram and I saw an ad for like singer needed for a pop punk band, and I was like, what's this? And there was like a link to their SoundCloud, and I went and I like listened to the demos of like it was nobody else in the band except for Sean in those demos. And I heard it and I was like, we can work with this. This is cool. So I went and auditioned and yeah, like that's kind of how we all, how I met the people in the band at the start.
So the rest of the band was already together, and then you joined through an Instagram ad looking for a pop punk singer?
Yeah, and then we had a different drummer at the time, and then after he left, that's how we sort of met Zach.
What was the audition process like for a band like that?
I just went to their rehearsal space, and they had a couple songs that they were like, yeah, learn these. And we'll see if it's a good fit. And yeah, it kind of worked out.
I didn't audition. Yeah. I was like, for a while, I was like pretty passively looking to get in a band. I'd been playing drums forever, but I'd never been in a band. I was just always doing other stuff with my time. And like a year and a half, maybe 2 years prior, I tried to get into a different band in Pittsburgh called I Swallow Ghosts, but their spot had already been filled. And so Corey from I Swallow Ghosts reached out to Sean and said, hey, like this guy might still be looking for a band. Not sure, it was a while ago. And then Sean sent me a message and said, join my band. And I was like, hey, do you want to like talk about it first? And so we did. And then, we met up, and they had someone filling in for a couple shows. And then I just kind of slithered in the in-between, and I've been around ever since. That was 2021, I think, December of 2021. And then there have been a couple other lineup changes along the way, I suppose. Like the project was very different whenever Sean started it. It was more like indie folksy, and it really started to change direction. And with that, some folks changed direction, but that was all mostly before I came around.
So it was an indie folksy, and you changed direction into pop punk. Do you know what the reasoning behind that was?
I guess a lot of it was just like personal preference, and like where our tastes were going. And I don't know. For me, like I always wanted to be in a pop punk band. Like since I went to college for music technology, and I was in a bunch of bands out there, but like never really my own thing where like I had a whole lot of creative say. Like I was in like indie bands and like more rock band kind of things, but I'd always like wanted to be a pop punk singer, and I just sort of have that sort of voice where I can just kind of fall into that. So for me it was a very natural decision to want to make this sort of music. Like Fall Out Boy is in my DNA pretty much, like Take This to Your Grave, I think is a great album. Foley Adieu, I will defend Foley till the day I die.
I mean, you can hear it in your sound that there's a lot of pop punk influence in there. Like you guys are a very good traditional pop punk band. You can hear the influences of Fall Out Boy. And I even see the Between You and Me hoodie that you're wearing right now, so traditional pop punk at that point, which is sick. What bands were you first introduced? Like, how were you introduced into the genre as fans yourself? What bands introduced you to pop punk?
I grew up and like learning to play drums. I was mostly playing heavier stuff, and then it got heavier and heavier, and then I found diminishing returns. It was like, this isn't interesting anymore. So I stumbled upon A Day to Remember, which kind of like started to bridge a gap where I was like, oh, heavy music can be melodic and catchy and not just heavy all the time. So A Day to Remember was kind of my gateway drug into 4 Year Strong and The Wonder Years and Blink-182, of course. And
that's so funny because I feel like so many people have used A Day to Remember for the other way. You're into pop punk, and then you're like, oh, A Day to Remember was my bridge into like metalcore and into heavier music. So the fact that yours went backwards is interesting.
I entirely worked it in reverse. Yeah. Whenever I the first time I saw 4 Year Strong live in 2014 was really the thing that like it. But prior to that, I didn't realize that like music existed in small-ish spaces. Like I had no idea that like 300, 500 cap clubs exist. To me, a concert was several thousand people, and that's the only place where music happened. And so whenever I went to that show and saw like what magic can happen at like a smallish show in a smallish room, then like that's really what sent me full tilt into the pop punk genre and those that are associated with it.
What about you, Drew?
I mean, yeah, for me, like my first band that I got like really into was Green Day. Like got into on my own, like when I was 14, 15, around there. My first concert actually was A Day to Remember and Rise Against.
That's a sick first concert.
I was like, I didn't have the context to appreciate what I was seeing. You know, it was like outside at a like 5,000 cap space. And the dude from A Day to Remember is running around the crowd in a freaking hamster ball. And I'm like, this is great. This is the greatest thing ever. But like, yeah, only now looking back, I'm like, that was an insane show. Like an insane tour to be like the first thing that I see.
Especially with both bands that also put on epic shows. Like my first concert was the Backstreet Boys, you know. This is my parents took me as a kid to be able to be like, yeah, no, Rise Against and A Day to Remember were my first concert. Like that's a great way to set you up and really like formulate that like portion of music taste and be like, yeah, no, this is 1,000% going to be my personality for the next 20 plus years.
Drew, that's funny. I had no idea that was your first show. 'Cause I was there as well for that one.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's another
that's
misconnection.
funny.
Me and Zach went to the same high school. He's 2 years older than I am, but like we never interacted when we were actually in high school. And it was only after like we were in this band and we were like, you went to what? Like
Small
Bro, children
world.
dox us.
yeah.
Yeah. I'll bleep
Whatever.
that part out. So, you know, you guys obviously both grew up at the band, grew up listening to pop punk, playing in a pop punk band now yourself. So every single band has that moment where they're like, okay, we're actually doing this, right? We're getting out of the garage. We're doing this for real. What was that moment for you?
We played our first couple shows at like smaller venues, like 100-ish cap rooms, I guess. Like a record store was our first show. Record store called the Government Center, and it was great. Like we had all really, except for you, Zach, like we had all been like in bands before, right? Like so you know, it was sort of natural for us to want to play shows as soon as possible and like share the songs once we had them.
For me, just like the first show was getting out of the garage, so to speak, because I had been playing like drums to and for myself for, I don't know, like 15, 16 years at that point. I think the first time where like it really I don't know, like felt like it was starting to mean something, not just to us, but other people, was whenever we opened for Knuckle Puck, probably at Mr. Small's. It was the first time where we were like in a legit room in front of a lot of people. So that was probably, for me, that's where like the tide started to turn a little bit.
What was that reaction like from the crowd? What was that feeling like when you first opened for Knuckle Puck?
It was great. It was a little scary, you know, because it was like, is this going to resonate with people that are really into this kind of music? And I don't know, from that show, like we got a decent amount of people that still will come out to stuff that we put on that's just ours. And they're like, yeah, we found you first at that show. I'm like, sweet. Mission accomplished, dude.
Winning over fans. That's what it's all about. We're opening up for other bands, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It was definitely a little intimidating because, like you play a local show. Granted, you want to be good and you want people to like you, but the stakes just feel lower, you know, because there's not a well-known national act that goes alongside it, and so it was definitely intimidating. But like, once settled into the first groove of the first song, it was just normal. And so like, I think that might have been the last time, you know, I'm going to knock on wood, the last time that like I had a little bit of stage fright, because like then it went fine and it was great and it was so much fun. So I was like, oh, why do that? It's cooler this way.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a higher risk reward, right? Because it's like, you know, you go out there, you open up for a band like Knuckle Puck, and then if the audience hates you, which not saying that they ever even would, but you know, you get those bad reviews or they hate you, and it's like, oh shit, like these are fans of a band that's doing it at a high level in the scene and they didn't like us. So there's that, I guess, fear of being rejected, where a room of 100 people that may not necessarily be there for you or anybody else, they're just kind of there grabbing a drink type thing or whatever. Or maybe they're there for like another local band that has a bit of a bigger following. You know, you're not, if you don't impress them as much, it's not as maybe big or as important. But I mean, those butterflies that you get and that nervousness, I can only imagine that being a good thing. And, you know, who knows, maybe one day you're opening up for Fall Out Boy. I'm sure you're going to get that then. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I'll be shitting my brains out if we're about to play for Fall Out Boy. I was shitting my brains out before Knuckle Puck, dude.
Just like puking on the side of the stage. Like, I'm just like, sorry, guys. Every single show on this tour is going to be canceled on our end because every time we tried to go on stage, just puking. Speaking of that, though, you know, and these cool experiences that you've gotten so far. Yeah. On the topic of vomit, what's the wildest experience that you've had so far as a band?
I mean, quite literally on the topic of vomit, which is so funny. And so we played a show. That was Halloween, right, Drew?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're playing with a band called The Middle Room, who are great and love them so much.
Really good friends in our local Pittsburgh scene. Like, they were one of the first bands that really like gave us a chance when we were just starting out, and they had been established for a little bit. So they were having like a comeback show, or well, they went on a little hiatus and they wanted to come back. So we were like, play our Halloween show, do that. and
yeah. And not at all to throw any shade, only to express empathy to their singer. It was just one point during their set. We were sitting in the back in the green room, and I just see out of the corner of my eye that someone has burst through the curtain, side stage, and lots of vomit. So much, the most I've ever seen in one place at one time. And,
I did not know this story before we went here, by the
way. Yeah. So that, I mean, I think that is it was so surprising. It was so shocking. And our guitarist B, they definitely are not a fan of vomit. And so that presented them with a difficulty because they had to walk through the vomit zone to get to the stage whenever we played immediately after them.
Yeah. And then that was the same show that I like was like going off a little bit. And then I like smacked my like nose into my knee in the middle of a song. And then my nose starts bleeding. And I'm like, let me go remedy this real quick. Like, one of you guys riff. And then I'm like, sitting back there, I'm like, it's been like a minute 30. Dude, I got to get back out there. So, like, I just go out. I'm like, does anyone have a solution for this? And a girl, like, comes up with a tampon and shoves it into my nose. And I just play, like, the next 3 songs with a tampon in my nose. So that was the same show. We were cursed that night, dude.
That sounds like a fun show. That's like the spirit. That wasn't a pop punk show. That was a punk show. That was like the spirit of punk right there. Like the genres of pop punk and emo, like they've been evolving over the years, and you know, you're in that space where you have a bit of that traditional 2000s sound mixed with, you know, the 2010s and a modern touch on it as well, right? So where do you think that the genre is heading, and how do we keep the pop punk and emo scene alive moving forward beyond 2025?
I don't think I've given too much thought to like what the zeitgeist is doing, just because I don't think it's very useful to make something that is cool and interesting. I think like what you make has to be something that resonates with you, the artist, first, and then fans hopefully will see that and gravitate towards that. So I don't know. For us, like, it's just more of a collaborative process, getting more like natural sounds of like a band in a room. That was kind of our thesis for this EP resolution.
That's a very, I feel like, good musician answer, because you're not putting yourself in this box of like, yeah, I'm a pop punk artist and I'm writing pop punk songs, where, we've seen bands like Grayscale, where it started out as a pop punk band and moved more towards into the indie band. And it's like, hey, we're just a band.
Yeah, like if that's what's interesting to them, like go for it,
Let's talk about your actual songs that you have been working on. Resolution. EP. What does this EP mean for you guys as a band?
It means we're still a band, which is sick. Because in making the record, like in the in-between between last release and the upcoming or like going to track the upcoming release, there was a lot of stuff that like we had to work through internally to make things work. I mean, like being in a band can just be hard sometimes. And so like we had to figure out how to work with that and take care of each other through the process of like writing new stuff, defining our direction as a band. That's really like what was at the core of it. And then really we wanted to make something that was really collaborative in nature, something that, the five of us in the band have like, well, granted, similar influence by virtue of us all being in like a pop punk band and being into, that type of music. We all have some pretty extremely varied influence. And so finding a way to have everyone represent like their voice, their contribution, their influence to make something that like just simply would not have happened if it were only like one or two of us working on it.
Yeah, because like in the past, like for our first album, that was basically all written by like each individual song was basically written by one person and then presented to the group like, hey, this is what we got. And it's, basically done, but fill in the blank with like your parts. So like, I would always say like, I'm not the best lead guitar player in the world. So you write a lead guitar part that like is going to fit this thing. But for this one, like for this EP, each song started very collaboratively. Like, for example, like the first single, Nobody's Burden, started out as a instrumental that our guitar player B sent. It was just like, hey, go crazy. Like, if you can write to this, like, whatever, like, we'll use it as a jumping off point. And their stuff is just like so inspiring to me, just because B is just a very tight player, really creative arranger. And I was just able to like have a bunch of ideas on that. And then we got it to like sort of a point where we can start to build on top of what we had and like presented it to the group a lot earlier than we probably would have on past projects. So yeah, like just and all the songs sort of have a similar vibe to that. Like that story of coming to life.
Working with one of those bands that we talked about earlier, the Wonder Years, you had Matt, the Wonder Years, work on this album with you and produce the album. What was that like?
I mean, it was our first time working with any producer. And, when we were looking for someone to work on the project, we were like, dude, it's got to be Matt Brash. Like, there was no other producer that we could think that would like bring the songs to life in the way that we were looking to do it. And like, he's just such an expert on like engineering everything, like getting guitar tones right, getting really great sounding drum sounds, and it just like it made the whole process so much easier. And like, he's in addition to like all the engineering and technical stuff, he's also just like very creative. So like in our like process of writing the songs, we would be sending him demos like months in advance before we would go produce with him, and he would contribute like a lot of ideas, and we were able to make those changes before we even stepped foot in the studio. And that was just like really helpful to help bring the songs to what you can hear today.
Matt is a perfect individual.
Yes.
He was
You're talking about me, right?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, yeah, let's bring it to you. Yeah, Matt, he was so kind and so welcoming because, we did it in his basement. And so like we were in his space for 12 hours a day, most days for a week straight. And yeah, he's the hardest worker that I've ever come across, because like we would go and do whatever for 12 hours, but his day like wouldn't end there. He would keep working, and we're like, homeboy, when are you sleeping? Are you? But he was ready to go the next day. And yeah, he did so much to help us just elevate the songs themselves, how they sound. Yeah, it was entirely a dream and an immense learning experience through and through. It was really, really great.
Do you feel like working with him made you better musicians or better at recording songs? Like how did that really change?
Whew. I mean, like, where do we start? Like, it was, yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, between like us sending, at least for me, like with my drumming, us sending him demos ahead of time and him coming up with some notes and changes that we made in the room. I now I think about the parts I write differently. I think about how to be most intentional with every note and how it's executed. Different ways that parts can kind of push and pull to help the song, help serve the song most effectively. Being in the studio for a week straight, just very passively, like picking up on just various engineering things, nerdy stuff. Yeah, like just would not have come in contact with otherwise.
Now let's talk a little bit more about the actual EP itself. What themes or inspirations really put it together? Is there a theme? Is it a collection of songs? I mean, I've listened to the EP. It's a great EP, but I'm just kind of curious from your end, hearing about it in this sense of you were putting it together. Do you have an idea in mind? Did you have a theme in mind? Like, what was going on your back end, on the back end, when you were piecing these songs together and picking these select songs for this EP?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. That's why I'm kind of pausing, like, to think about it. Like, because each song topically sort of comes from a different place. But on the whole, like I said, like our vibe was like just collaborate on everything and come up with the very best stuff that we could. Like, because we had like, I don't know, like 10-ish songs in the works that we were like, this could be the thing that we pursue for this project, but we just want to go with the stuff that's like a little more focused. We wanted to have a little bit of everything on there too. Like Nobody's Burden is like sort of the straight ahead pop punk. Here you go. It's got the hook, all that stuff. Blizzard is more like a power poppy kind of thing. Baby Blue is like just the band going off, like just yes, do everything was kind of our philosophy for that for that one. And then Better Son was really the one that sort of started it all for us and like started us down this path. Like when we were trying to decide like, okay, what's next for us after our last EP. Better Son was actually supposed to be on that EP as a totally different version of that song, where it was like just a slower kind of ballad type thing. And one day we were just in rehearsal and we were like, we got to rework this thing because like it's fine how it is, but we got a little we could do better, we thought. So we just started jamming on it and like sort of came up with the new idea that is what's on the EP. We were like, okay, this is everything that we make from this point on sort of has to be focused around this new, more grown up, I guess, sound.
Like Drew said, like topically, the songs are, lyrically, they speak to different things. I think like if there were a theme, I hadn't really thought about this and I'm thinking about it on the spot. Like the theme would probably be like, make it better. Because previously, like Drew was saying, like our creative process before was a bit like, I have a song, let's learn it. And we didn't really get into the nuances and the details to say, this part needs a little more, this part needs, this, so on and so forth. And we just relentlessly tried to make each song better and better until we didn't think there was anything else to do to make it better.
And like with this one, we had that luxury to do that because when we were just starting out, like we really needed just songs to fill a set. Where like now we sort of were established and we have enough songs to play a show. So now it's like, and we have enough out that we can like promote ourselves. So this, we wanted to be very intentional about like, I think that's a good point, Zach. Like just make it as good as it could be.
It's almost like a new chapter of the band where it's like, hey, we were putting out stuff before and this is us kind of our entry level stuff to the band. And now it's like, okay, we're serious and we're consciously, actively putting out the very best songs. They're not rushed at all or, and not to say that your older stuff was rushed or not as good, but you were writing songs so you could build that set list and build that, I guess, rapport as a band. And now it's like, okay, we've got that rapport as a band. Let's tweak every little thing. So this way we're only putting out that because there's a certain level of like polish and professionalism to any band that makes it into, the public eye and starts building that audience. So it sounds like this is sort of that turning point for you guys then as like, okay, we're taking this really, really seriously now and we're going all out.
That's the plan. We're trying. Yeah.
And this EP is out on May 23rd. It's called Resolution. It's by Old Neon. If you're watching this on YouTube, go and check it out. Or if it's not out yet, pre-save it on Spotify or Apple Music. And what else do you have planned for 2025 that people need to keep a lookout for?
We're going on a little weekender tour in May. Follow us on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
We're going on to Philly, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Zach, help me. What's the last one?
Oh, it's somewhere in Kentucky. I don't remember the town. But
the Kentuckians are going to hate you now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But we're going out with Afloat and Mud Whale, and so we're super thankful to them for adding us to that run. We'll also be at Launch Music Conference in April. On the 17th, we'll be local in Pittsburgh, opening a show for Keep Flying on April 24th. And I think that's all that's announced.
Yeah, but we got more stuff coming down the pipe.
Yeah. More stuff.
Yeah. Follow them on Instagram for those updates. Is there anywhere else that you post updates besides Instagram that people can look out for? Website, anything like that?
Instagram's probably the best place.
And follow them on Instagram.
We do have a TikTok, but Sean's kind of going rogue on that thing. So I don't know if I'd trust anything on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just going to start, announcing random dates that you're not going to be at. Hey, we're opening for Metallica next week.
That would be kind of a great idea, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
I'm
start
going to write
faking
that one
announcements.
Down.
There you go.
Eventually, one of them will be true.
There you go. If you just keep on with the fake announcements, eventually one of these bands will catch wind and actually invite you on the tour. So, if you do it and it works, just know I gave you that idea and I want some tickets for it.
Oh, you got it. Guess this, man.
Duly noted. Yeah.
Hell
this
yeah.
is a great bit.
And honestly,
bits.
if it works, you just need to keep on. Like, this is the greatest marketing ploy in the world. Like, I want to see it work just for you guys, just to see it work. Let's do it. I'll start sharing stuff. I'll start reposting every single damn TikTok.
We'll be the proof of concept for this marketing strategy that you've had.
Exactly. I love it. Hey, another thing that we do is before we wrap up every show is we have another quick discussion about up and coming bands or underrated bands in the scene right now, because that's what the podcast is about. It's about growing the scene. Who are some bands? I usually ask about one. No one really ever gives me one. So who are some up and coming bands that you believe deserve some extra love? I'm
gonna steal this one from Zach. Heading North. Heading North is a Pittsburgh-based band. They started out like a year or so after we did, and they are just so good. They are so ridiculously good. We've played a bunch of shows with them. Can't say enough good things about the fine folks in Heading North. Go give them a listen.
I was going to say, it sounds like a band favorite if you're stealing it from Zach.
Yeah, we always answer Heading North. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not even just a band favorite. I think anyone who's listened to Heading North favorite, because they are insane. They're the best band on planet Earth. So if Drew has taken Heading North, yeah, they're really sick. I hope everyone goes and listens to them. Since Drew took Heading North, I will say I have two. Go for the Gold, another Pittsburgh band. They're both Pittsburgh bands. Go for the Gold and Crash Nebula, I would say. I really, really love those two bands. We're very fortunate to be able to play with these bands from time to time, and
Crash.
It's just an entire privilege.
Crash Nebula has described themselves as the story so far at home. And yeah.
I love that. Pittsburgh has an incredible scene. Like, so many amazing bands come out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm glad to hear that you're also supporting your local scene with these shout outs. So if you haven't heard of these bands, if you're not from Pittsburgh, go and check them out as well, and keep an eye out for Old Neon's EP Resolution. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Batisse. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review.